Welcome back. You should have completed the warm-up and the cardio portion of our Move Beyond Cancer program. So now we're going to go into the core portion, and we're going to work on the floor, on the mat. If you have one, you can go ahead and lay it down. So working your way down, we're going to start out on our backs with our legs bent, feet flat on the floor. And we're going to start out with some pelvic tilts. So what I want is for you to curl your tailbone in towards your belly button, and it should feel like you're flattening out your back against the floor, and then you're going to go ahead and relax. So I want you to give me a good squeeze and then relax. You should be working those lower abdominals kind of right across the top of the hips, getting a nice squeeze in the core. And this is just to warm everything up. And this is a small movement. You shouldn't be putting a lot of pressure or any pressure into your feet, okay? It's really just a curl using those abdominal muscles to kind of tug in on the tailbone. So I'm gonna have you do about 10 reps at your own pace. Make sure that you're breathing. As you build up, you can always work your way up to 15 reps of these. And I'm gonna do one more. And then I'm gonna go into the bridge. So you want your feet about hip width apart, and the heels should be about 8 inches away from your hips. I'm gonna have you drive through your heels to lift your hips up towards the ceiling, squeezing in those glutes, and then bringing those hips back down to the floor, nice and controlled. Squeezing up, and you should try to be getting a nice straight line from the knees to the shoulders, a nice diagonal line. If you can't get that high, that's fine. Don't force anything. You might be a little tight in the front of your hips. That might limit your range of motion. That's okay. The other thing I want you to be mindful of is your alignment with your knees. So your knees shouldn't be falling out to the side. They shouldn't be caving inwards. They should be in line with your ankles and in line with your hips. All of that should be on the same track. Getting a nice strong squeeze in the glutes as you lift. And we'll go ahead and do one more. And then go ahead and relax. Okay, at this point, I would either have you go back into the pelvic tilts, or if you feel like your core muscles are a little bit stronger, you can do the knee marches. So I'm gonna show you that one. What I want is for you to engage that pelvic tilt. So flatten out your back into the floor, keeping that core nice and tight. You're gonna lift your knees up over your hips, and then I'm gonna have you one leg at a time. You're gonna reach that toe down towards the floor, keeping that leg bent. Okay, once you tap the floor, then you can lift that knee back up. Make sure that both knees are up over your hips before you start moving that other side. And you're keeping your core nice and tight so that way your legs aren't pulling on your body, and you'll feel it if you are losing your pelvic tilt. It'll feel like you're moving down towards your legs. Notice that I'm nice and controlled as I'm bringing that foot down towards the floor. I'm not just letting my leg fall. Nice and controlled as I'm lifting, and I'm really just imagining that my thigh is connected to my belly, and I'm letting that contract to lift my thigh. So you'll do about 10 of these, 10 on each side, and you can always build up to 15. And progression should be slow. It should take you a week or two to build up to those 15 reps. And I'm gonna go ahead and do one more. And then I'm gonna set up again for that bridge. So feet are hip width apart, knees are in line with my ankles and my hips, driving through those heels, squeezing in the glutes to lift. Trying to get a nice diagonal from the knees to the shoulders. Getting a little bit of a pause at the top to squeeze, and then nice and controlled on the way down. I like to emphasize that all of our movements should be purposeful. If you're really concentrating on what you're doing, you're going to get the most benefit out of these exercises. And I'm just going to do a couple more. You want to take all of these exercises at your own pace. You don't have to keep up with me. So if I'm moving too fast, you can just pause the video or you can rewind. All right, so what I'm going to have you do is roll to your side and we're going to work our way up to all fours. So I want your hands directly underneath your shoulders, your knees directly underneath your hips, and we're going to do around the world. So work within your comfortable range of motion. You're going to lift an arm and have the palm facing in towards the body with the thumb up towards the ceiling, like you're going to shake somebody's hand. And you're just trying to get in line with your body, keeping that neck relaxed, shoulder away from your ear. And then you're going to go ahead and work your way to the legs, driving through that heel, extending the leg nice and straight behind you, trying to be at the same level as your body, trying not to shift your weight to that stable leg. Okay, trying not to tip your hip out. And then when you're bringing everything back down to the floor, you want to make sure that you're putting it back into alignment. So those hands should always end up right underneath your shoulders, knees right underneath your hips, keeping that core engaged through this whole exercise, really focusing on control. And to start, I like to have people work their way around about 3 times. If you've worked your way up a little bit, you can always work around about 8 times. So I'm going to show you how to get into child's pose. This is how you take a break from this exercise. So you're going to go a little wider with your knees. You're going to sit your hips back towards your heels. You're going to fold your torso over your thighs, and then you can use your hands to pillow your head. So depending on how far your forehead is from the ground, you can stack your fists. You can lay your hands flat. And that's really just to give you some rest and to give your wrists some a little bit of a break, okay? So then I'm going to have you work your way back up. If that was enough for you, if you're a beginner, you only need to do 1 set and you can actually stop the video at this time. If you're not a beginner, I'm going to take you through a second set. I'm going to show you a little more advanced version of that exercise, and then we'll go into modified planks. Again, if you're a beginner, you're done. You can go ahead and move on to the next video. All right, so now I'm going to show you bird dogs. And this is opposite arm, opposite leg, same thing as around the world, but now you're doing them at the same time. Okay, so nice extension through those fingertips, driving out through that heel, making sure that you're nice and centered. You're not tipping your hips. Hips should be parallel to the floor the whole time. And making sure that you're bringing that arm and leg back into alignment before you shift to the other side. Typically, I have people start at about 5 on each side. Obviously, you have to build up to this one though first, okay? But when you're ready to make the transition, I have people do about 5. So I'm just gonna do 1 more. And then if you need to, you can sit back into that child's pose. If not, we're gonna go into modified plank. And you should only be doing modified plank if you've built up to modified plank. You should have been doing some leaning plank before this. Or maybe you've done plank in the past and you're confident that you can handle a modified plank. It can be hard on the upper body. So if you've had some surgeries, just take it easy, work your way up to this. Typically, I start people at about 15 seconds and just 1 set. We're gonna do 2 sets of 30 seconds. So you wanna build up to that. I'll let you know when we hit 15 seconds, so if you're just starting out, you know where to stop. All right, so for the modified plank, elbows should be directly underneath the shoulders, and you're gonna kick those feet up. And I want you to have a good pelvic tilt when you're lifting into the plank position. And I'm gonna get my timer started here. Okay, so everybody up in 3, 2, 1, lifting up to the front of those thighs. Hips should be about shoulder height. Okay, keeping that pelvic tilt and focusing on your breathing. Don't hold your breath. There shouldn't be any pain in your shoulders. We're coming up on 15 seconds. That was it. If you're doing 30 seconds with me, just hang in there. 3, 2, 1, go ahead and relax. Okay, we'll do one more round. I will tell you again when you hit 15 seconds, so if you're building up, you'll know where you need to stop. Otherwise, you can do the full 30 seconds with me. And everybody up in 3, 2, 1, go. Keeping that tailbone tucked into the belly button. Really drawing the belly button up towards the spine. Core muscles should be nice and tight. And I want you to just focus on your breathing. That was 15 seconds. Hang in there, we're almost there. And 3, 2, 1, go ahead and relax. All right, nice job. So that was the core portion of our Move Beyond Cancer program. Thank you for joining us, and you can move on to the strength portion.